as far as it did as those other cases, but it's an awful feeling, and you just feel like you don't know what to do, you don't know who to turn to. And 6 years ago when this happened to me, the internet and MySpace and Facebook wasn't as popular as it is now. But if it was,
can you imagine if it was there today? Do you feel like you certainly would have been a victim of the internet?
It would have been 20 times worse than it was.
How has it impacted you? What effect does it have on you even today as you're a young woman in your 20s?
Actually, still to this day, if I see that group of girls out at the grocery store or in the mall, they stare at me, they make faces at me, they still yell things at me. And recently I was out with a bunch of friends at a bar and restaurant, and one of them came up behind me and kicked me in the back of my leg.
At 23 years of age. So bullying can happen at any time.
Yes.
Are you better equipped to deal with it now than you were when you were in high school?
I am, and I said something right away to somebody so that they noticed that she kicked me, and when I'm leaving this restaurant, if anything was to happen, I let them know that that's what happened when I was in there.
All right, we're going to talk more about your particular story, but now it's time for our viewers to tell us what they think about bullying and these cases that are making news. I'd like to know if you were ever bullied, or if you were the bully. And I'd also like to know if you agree that schools and authorities should be taking this more seriously these days, but should it be serious enough to send kids to jail? Or do you think those girls and boys in Massachusetts were responsible for Phoebe Prince killing herself? If you want to tell us what you think, a couple of different ways that you can do it, email me at either csnphilly.com. When you go to csnphilly.com, put in It's Your Call or IYC, that'll take you to my webpage. You can leave me a comment, or if you'd like, you can email me directly. My email address is lynn@lynndoyle.net. You can find us on Facebook, MySpace, or YouTube. We're going to be sharing some of those comments in just a moment, but don't use it to harass me because I will come after you. Let me bring in some experts now to add to Ashley's story. Chad Lassiter, an old friend of the show, is the president of the Black Men at Penn School of Social Work Incorporated. That's at the University of Pennsylvania Graduate School of Social Policy and Practice. And Jennifer DiStefano is the student assistant coordinator for the Cherry Hill, New Jersey School District. She's the author of the district's bullying policy and is involved in dealing with this issue on a district-wide basis. Good to have both of you back with us. I want to start with you, Jen, because do you have to deal with this every day?
Yes.
In every school?
Pretty much so. K to 12. We have some type of issues going on, all throughout the district. I have to say to Ashley, I'm just so proud of you. I really am for coming in, speaking about that. And I have to say that the most interesting thing that I heard you say is reporting. You reported that last incident, and I think that that's really what we're trying to really hone in on now, is reporting any incident that happens. Because with our bullying policy, we take each report seriously.
Well, you just said something that struck a note with me, K through 12. I mean, I was shocked that Ashley had to deal with this by the time she was a junior, but in kindergarten?
Yes.
We're dealing with this from kindergarten to 12th grade and now beyond? That just seems incomprehensible to me.
And I agree with you totally. I think I have seen things, change over the years, and the technologies have not gotten any better as far as I'm concerned with the MySpace and the Facebook and the texting. Young kids have phones now. Second graders have phones, and they're allowed to text. They're not mature enough to do things like that.
Well, what's interesting is when I'm talking to you, I'm thinking you're dealing with girls. And Chad, when I was a kid, when we heard a bully, usually it was a schoolyard bully who was a boy.
Yes.
But this has now crossed both genders.
Yes,
and it's not really so much the boys so much that are the big bullies, but it really does encompass the girls as well.
No, you're definitely right. And I would like to echo those same sentiments, Ashley. I believe that by you sharing your narrative, that's the first stage of empowerment. But you're absolutely right, Lynn. We're looking at relational aggression, and that's what we call bullying as it relates to females. And females are engaging in this in the school. They're engaging in this outside the schools. They're using those enhanced methods like social networking, either it be MySpace, whether it be Facebook, whether it be instant message. They do a lot of rumors. They do a lot of gossiping. They do a lot of backstabbing and things of that nature. So we're seeing a high incident of bullying among females. But one of the things that we also know is that if you listen to what Ashley shared in her story, she talked about things from an empowerment standpoint of of being proactive and not reactive. Her mom was able to see some of those warning signs.
But not until after she suffered emotional trauma. And I mean, if the girl's afraid to get up in the morning and go to school, that's not an environment in which you want your child to have to survive.
No, you're absolutely right. But that's one of the signs, being able to notice that your child is withdrawn, to see that your child might have a school phobia, anxiety, depression, poor eye contact, loss of appetite, loss of interest in things that they typically would engage in. And so that's one of the things that we want parents to be able to recognize, is that these are some of the things they can pay keen attention to.
How do we know that it's not just a child going through a phase? You know, I mean, I've raised 2 daughters. I can say this with great personal knowledge. You know, some days they wake up and they're not in the greatest of moods. So should we be overreacting and saying, oh my goodness, are you being victimized, or are you just being a teenage girl?
Well, I think it's the communication part that's really important, because I think that when parents notice those signs and they are I call it the feeling in the pit of your stomach that something is the matter. You know your child the best, that you have to ask the questions, and no, Mom, everything's fine, it's probably the time to lay off at that time, but then reopen that communication, because you know that there's something that's happening.
Okay.
And notifying the school is really important, Lynn.
Well, we're going to talk about notifying the school, or even talking to your parents. I mean, Ashley was brave enough to eventually do that with her mom, but a lot of kids don't want to get the parents involved. We're going to talk about that and what you can do if you think someone you love is being bullied. If I have to take a break, but I'd like to know if you were ever bullied in school and what you did to deal with it. All of that's coming up when It's Your Call continues right after this.
Transportation for It's Your Call guests provided by Preferred Car and Limousine.
Welcome back again, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. This is It's Your Call, and we are tackling the issue of bullying. Almost every single one of us knows someone or was bullied ourselves, myself included. So after these incidents that have happened all across the country, most recently in Massachusetts, where Phoebe Prince was said to have killed herself because she was bullied so badly, we decided that we're going to tackle this issue. We have a very brave young woman, Ashley, here with us, who is sharing her story of harassment. It started when she was in junior high, continues, or even now, when she was a junior in high school. And we have 2 experts here who can answer the questions that you have. They're going to give us some advice. And the thing that we were talking about during the break is that every one of us has had some example or some experience with bullying. And at our age, we're still talking about it. It's still staying with Ashley in her everyday life. So let's start at the root of it. Why does someone bully another person?
Low self-esteem, poor self-image, also having anger and aggression has never been dealt with, and anti-social behavior that parents have not really decided that they were going to confront. So we have a lot of young people who are angry, but we also have a lot of young people who feel as though they can prey on someone, and oftentimes they attempt to do that.
But Jennifer, when you look at those girls that are arrested in Massachusetts, 6 of them, you know, they're called the so-called mean girls, but when you look at their records, some of them play field hockey, some of them are in the student council. I mean, these are not what I would consider typical bullies who would have low self-esteem or parents that don't care about them, as Chad implied.
Those types of stereotypes are totally gone in this day and age. Anybody of any race, gender, color can be somebody who will be bullying somebody else, and it crosses every type of person. And you don't have to be a single person. You know, I think what we would call those 6 people, and I know some of them were bullies.
Look at them. I mean, they're clean-cut, all-American looking kids.
Who have issues.
Who obviously have issues.
Deeply rooted.
And now their lives, as I said at the top of the show, forever altered, because they will always be associated with this child's death.
And I think when you have more than one, I think when you have a group of others who kind of go into a gang situation, and that's how I saw that